On.
Hey guys, welcome back to another BCMN Bracketology. Sorry for the late delay on videos. We've been super busy, and honestly, we've been back and forth on all of our picks, and we wanted to make sure we were right for the second year in a row for all of you guys out there. We for sure have got the winner this year, so follow our picks to win your March Madness League. If you're new to this channel, drop a sub down below or even a like or a comment. Tell us what you think, if you agree, disagree, and just what you think we should do in the future. So let's hop into the video, and our first pick is UConn versus Stetson. No need to even argue. UConn is winning this game.
All right, next up we got FAU versus Northwestern, and honestly, I could see it going both ways. I think FAU is a little overseeded this year. I think they're more of a 10, 11 seed. They deserve to be in, but not an 8 seed. I'm going to take Northwestern and Boo Booey over FAU.
Next, we got San Diego State versus the American Athletic Conference champs, UAB. This is one of those 12-5 upsets not a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are going towards other ones. I think the Mountain West is strong, but not that strong. I think San Diego State is overseeded. They just kind of lost their conference tournament. UAB is a great team at crashing the boards. They play defensive, similar style to San Diego State in a very defensive game. But they're a good three-point shooting team, and I think they're going to be able to win this game and crash the boards.
All right, next we got Auburn versus Yale, and I think this is going to be the worst 4 versus 13 matchup. As much as I like Yale, I think Auburn is so complete. There's no way they lose in the first round.
Yeah, kind of going off that BYU Duquesne's. BYU is a very complete team for a 6 seed, and that 11 seed is just not that upset in this tournament. BYU is a great three-point shooting team. They're solid defensively, phenomenal offensively. They're not going to lose this game. BYU will easily move on.
Next, we got Illinois versus Morehead State. And as much as I love Morehead State, I think Illinois' guard or backcourt power with Terrence Shannon and Marcus Damask is just too much and will overwhelm Morehead State.
Next, we got Washington State versus Drake. I think this is a good game. Drake's super hot right now. And they also are pretty balanced both offensively and defensively in terms of metrics or along that 40 to 50 line. Whereas Washington State, we've seen this year, they kind of struggle offensively. And I think Drake's going to be hot enough to pull us out and be able to score points in big time situations.
All right, next we got Iowa State versus South Dakota State. I think this 2 versus 15 matchup, don't overthink it. Iowa State just won the Big 12. They're going to win this game.
Yeah. Now moving on to the continuing in the top left, UConn Northwestern. Unless Boo Booey goes off and like drops 60 points, UConn's winning this game.
Next, we got UAB versus Auburn. And I think UAB got not a favorable first matchup, but I think they are no match for Auburn. Auburn's complete. They have a great defense, great offense. Just won the SEC. They're going to win.
Yeah, now we got BYU Illinois. I go to Illinois just for all of you out there. So this is not a biased pick. I think BYU is going to win, as sad as this sounds. BYU is a very good offensive scoring team. They can get hot from three. They're a scary team to play against, and Illinois is a terrible defensive team. I've watched them all season. They're ranked like 92 defensively, phenomenal offensively. So this is going to be a crazy high scoring game. Definitely hammer the overs. But BYU, I would say they could make, if they win this game, they could easily make a run. They're a scary team this March. In all metrics, they are very high up there ranked.
Next, Iowa State versus Drake, the battle of the state of Iowa. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think DeVries on Drake will make it very competitive, but Iowa State's defense is so overpowering that Drake's not going to get anything going, and Iowa State's going to win.
Moving on, we got UConn versus Auburn. Both very solid teams. I'm really upset these are in the same conference. Both are very, or not conference, same region. Both very, very sound metrically. Auburn's ranked fourth overall. UConn's ranked first overall. Like not even seed wise, just in terms of like Ken Palm rankings. Both are very balanced. Auburn's more of a defensive team. UConn's got that offense, but it doesn't really matter. Both are elite level teams. Auburn just dominated the SEC. Same with UConn in terms of the Big East. I do think UConn's going to win this game, but if you're in a league with many people, you could have Auburn making a run. I honestly think the winner of this game has a real good shot at making not only the Final Four, but winning the entire March Madness tournament.
All right, next up we got BYU versus Iowa State. Very good matchup. once again, I really like Iowa State here because their defense is really sound and they're very good at controlling the game and slowing down the game. Also, they don't foul very much. And BYU is a good free throw shooting team, but they're not going to get to the line as much as they want. So I'm going to go with Iowa State.
And now we got our final pick. We got UConn, Iowa State. Iowa State's been phenomenal recently, but they don't have that offensive powerhouse to really keep up with UConn, I think. And UConn's it finds ways to score by in so many different players. And they're just a spectacular team across the board. It's really hard to stop all of their players at once. You've got guys all across. You got Caravan, you got Klingon, Castle's such a good player, and you see Newton step up recently, and Cam Spencer, not even recently. They've all scoring 10 plus points a game. You're getting points from everywhere. They're not relying on the three, but they can hit them. Iowa State is so hard to defend, and I don't think Iowa State, even the powerhouse defense, will be able to keep up scoring with a UConn. It's not going to be a low scoring game.
All right, to kick off the West region, don't overthink it. UNC is going to win.
Next, we got Mississippi State versus Michigan State. Michigan State's one of those tournament teams come March. They're very solid. They've got that star. They've got that experience in the Big Ten. Very solid shooting. They can go on runs. We've seen it before. Mississippi State struggles offensively sometimes this season. And come March, you just can't see that happen. I think Michigan State, we got to give them one game at least and see how that goes.
Next, we get one of my favorite matchups of the first 2 days of March Madness. We got St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. This is a very popular pick for the 12 over 5. And I'm gonna do it too. Because I think Grand Canyon, you look at the who's gonna be the best player in that game when it's a very close matchup. And Grand Canyon's Tyon Grant Foster is elite scoring and will win them the game.
Next, you got Alabama versus Charleston. This game's hammer the over. Both teams have good, decent offenses at least. Alabama's unbelievable. Charleston's very solid for who they are. And just atrocious defenses, both outside top 100 defenses. I could be scoring on this team. As we saw last year, it was an issue for them. Alabama does have some star players, however, who are just going to make a big impact. Mark Steers is going to score 30 points in this game, a terrific senior who's just got that experience. And I think that'll push them past Charleston. Alabama's going to win this game, but don't be surprised if it's an upset. This game could go 20-point swings either way.
Next, we got Clemson versus New Mexico. This is my favorite upset to take because New Mexico is one of the hottest teams in the country coming out of a very hard, very good Mountain West conference. Clemson lost first round in the ACC tournament. I think they've been playing really bad, and New Mexico's going to win.
Next, we got Baylor Colgate. This is one of the games I really wouldn't overthink. Baylor does not lose to bad teams. They beat the teams they should, and they don't really play up at all, but they're not going to lose this game here. They also just kind of have a really big team. They're all a bunch of they have, I think they have a 7-footer, they have a 6'11" guy and a 6'9" guy who are all going to be big and just too big for Colgate to handle.
Next, we got Dana and Nevada. Both teams are very solid. Both teams have been pretty solid in their conference, respectively. But when you're picking March Madness teams, you can think of how hot teams can get. Dayton is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. They have the best player in the game in Darren Holmes, and they're going to win the game.
Next, you got Arizona. I'm not even going to talk about it. Arizona's not losing again to a 15 seed.
Next is my favorite 1 versus 9 or 8 matchup. North Carolina versus Michigan State. Don't bet against Izzo in March unless you have UNC's team, their powerhouses, and Baycott and RJ Davis. They came to play, they came to win.
Now you got Grand Canyon versus Alabama. Another high scoring game, but I don't think Alabama You can't be a good team outside of the top 100 offensively. Grand Canyon's, I mean, defensively, Grand Canyon's actually a very balanced team. It's a much better matchup for them than it was for Charleston. They also have that star playmaker ability of Tyon Grant Foster, who's going to put up big time points, matches up against Alabama. Great. You've got that star on star action, but you also have that defensive presence on Grand Canyon. I think Grand Canyon is going to make a little Cinderella run here and beat Alabama.
Next, we got New Mexico versus Baylor. We've been debating this game for a very long time because both teams are very good. New Mexico is getting hot at the right time, though. Baylor is a very slow pace. If New Mexico can keep the pace fast and play through their guys like House and Mashburn, I think they're going to win the game.
Next, we got Dayton, Arizona. Dayton, very good offensive team. Defensively, they're a little shaky, but they're a great three-point shooting team. When they're on, they're on. I think it matches up favorably. Arizona allows a lot of threes this season. This is kind of our crazy bracket region. But I don't think Arizona, if Dayton's hot, can compete. Dayton, their only losses this season are when they're shooting below 30% from three, pretty much. Whenever they're above that, which is typical, they're a very scary team. And Arizona is notorious this season, notoriously bad at defending the three-point shot. And this is kind of one of those 7-2 matchups where we really see Dayton has a shot at winning.
All right, to start off the Sweet 16, we got UNC versus Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, you had an amazing run, beat two very good teams, but you're not going to beat North Carolina. You guys are not big enough to stop Baycott, and RJ Davis can light it up whenever he wants.
Next, we got New Mexico, Dayton. New Mexico does have that three-point defensive ability. They have spectacular guard play, both in the front court and the back court. We think New Mexico matches up really well here. We think New Mexico is also very underseeded. They should be a arguably 6 or 7 seed, even more. They just don't have those quality of wins. They've been on fire lately. And guard play in a tournament in and out, we've seen guard play be more and more prevalent, and New Mexico is going to take care of this business, and I think by quite a bit.
All right, lastly, in this region, we got UNC versus New Mexico. Both teams playing well at the right time. This is really tough to decide. I love North Carolina. However, New Mexico is hot. They have 4 scorers over 12 points per game. Plus, they got Nelly Jr. Joseph, one of my favorite players in this tournament. He is huge senior that can stop Armando Bincott. I'm going to go with New Mexico in the Final Four.
Moving on, we got Houston versus Longwood. I'm just going to take Houston here.
Next, we got Nebraska versus Texas A&M. This is a very good 8 versus 9 matchup. I think both teams can play very well, but can also play down to their opponents. However, March is about runs and about getting hot. And Nebraska, Tuminga, all of them can shoot, all of them can score. I think they will win.
Next here we got Wisconsin versus James Madison. This is one of those matchups that I really hate had to go up against each other. James Madison's been on fire lately. They're only one of like 4 teams with only 3 losses. Wisconsin just been dominant in the Big Ten recently. They've made a great run. They've been super hot. Playing back to their old Wisconsin self, where they were a 4 or 5, or they were a 3 or 4 seed. They look spectacular right now. A lot of people are putting money on James Madison just because of their record and how strong they've been in their conference. I think Wisconsin should not be underrated right now, and I think they should win this game.
Next, we got Duke versus Vermont. And I think don't overthink it at all. This Duke team is very good, very sound. We'll win this game.
Okay, next we have Texas Tech versus NC State. A lot of people want the story of NC State making a run. They've got that big guy, he's like 280, 6'9". He's just been dominated. He bullied a super senior Baycott, dropping like 25. And I just don't see it happening. I love their story. I love them shooting 50% from 3, and I wish they could keep doing that, but it's just not realistic. And I think Texas Tech matches up much better than other teams have. They're a great offensive team. They're solid defensively. Offensively, I think they're top 25. Defensively, they're top 50. They're going to be able to score the ball. They shoot free throws well, which we've seen other teams fail to do against NC State. And I think NC State's tournament comes to an end very early, and a lot of people are going to be surprised by that.
Next, we got Kentucky versus Oakland. I think this game is going to be a shootout. Both Kentucky and Oakland have very, I wouldn't say bad defenses, but not great defenses. But they have very good offenses. Oakland has four scorers over 10 points. Kentucky has that star power, though. They have Rob Dillingham. I think he's going to go off this tournament. He's going to really show why he should be the number one pick in the NBA draft. They also have Antonio Reeves and Reed Shepard. I think there's no way they lose this game.
Next, we got Florida, winner of Boise or Colorado State. Florida is a very good team. They lost their 7-footer, but they have a guy 6'11" coming off the bench, so it doesn't really matter. And they both very similar skill. If not, the 6'11" guy is more talented and will play later on. They were just prepping him. I also think Florida's got those tough wins this season, which neither of the other teams have in kind of weaker conferences. Florida's beaten I think they beat Alabama twice by like 10 or 15. They dropped 100 points on them. They beat Auburn in a great game before. Florida's going to win this one.
Next, we got Marquette versus Western Kentucky. This is my favorite 2 versus 15 matchup, only because Tyler Kolek probably will not play. If he does not play, I think Western Kentucky gets hot. They have a very good free throw percentage, and that's what you want in upset teams. They have a very solid 3-point percentage as well. I think without Kolek, Marquette can win, can make a run, but 15 seeds have won in the last 3 years, and we're going to continue that trend. Western Kentucky.
Kind of going off that, Marquette struggles when other teams play a faster pace, and they really struggle like keeping their own pace in the game. Western Kentucky plays at the fastest pace in basketball right now, and Marquette can easily get sloppy and play Western Kentucky basketball, and we see that route for victory for them. Now we got Houston, Nebraska. Unless Kisei Tominaga drops like 50, I don't see them being able to board as good as Houston, score as well as Houston, or defend as well as Houston. So I think Houston's going to win.
Next, we got Wisconsin versus Duke. Got a lot of star power in both these games. Filipowski and McCain for Duke. And my favorite player in this tournament is out of Wisconsin, AJ Storr. I've watched him play a couple of times. He is super athletic, can shoot the ball, can drive, finish really well. I like him a lot. Wisconsin also has great size, great guard defense. I think they win.
Next, we got Texas Tech, Kentucky. Kentucky is a very well-rounded team. They can score the ball at will. Not the best defensively, but offensively, we've got 2 lottery picks in Reed Shepard and Rob Dillingham. They're very solid. Two good freshmen, and I just don't see Texas Tech being able to keep up with that star power.
Next, we got Florida versus Western Kentucky. Last 3 tournaments, 15 seeds have made the Sweet 16. I don't think it happens this year. Florida is so well-rounded, so great defensively and offensively. Even without their 7-foot center, they will be okay. They will take care of business. Florida.
Now we got Houston versus Wisconsin, 2 very good teams. Houston just got embarrassed by Iowa State. They really shot the ball poorly in that game, though. So it really depends. Any team can get knocked out whenever. I'm not taking that loss to be that huge. They were going to be a 1 seed in the same region, regardless of that win or loss. So that game didn't really have that much bearing as them versus Iowa State needed to perform. I'm hoping to get that top 2 seed, which was kind of ridiculous. They didn't anyways. I think they're going to move past Wisconsin.
Next, we got Kentucky versus Florida, battle of the SEC. I think it's going to be a very good matchup. They've played twice this year. Kentucky, when they were red hot, barely won. And then Florida started getting hot. They won in overtime on the road. It can go back and forth. You think of star power, but you also think of complete teams that can play offense and defense really well. Kentucky can't play defense all too well, and I think Florida will take advantage of that.
Final game, we got Houston versus Florida. Houston's very well rounded. They're well coached. They just moved to the Big 12. They have lost 4 games in the Big 12, which is just incredible. They're a solid team. I don't see Florida being able to just run up and down the court with them both ways. Florida's a good scoring team, but defensively, that we've seen some holes in the past. They let up a lot of points, and Houston just doesn't do that. So I think Houston's going to be have a good matchup here.
All right, now into the last section. Purdue versus the winner of Montana State and Grambling State. You already know Purdue can't play in. No, okay, don't know. They're not going to lose to a 16 seed again.
Next up, we got Utah State versus TCU. Mountain West was very slept on this season. Utah State plays very physical basketball. They're a strong team. They're going to be rough. TCU is a good team. By metric standpoints, they should be stronger. But given that eye test and the fact that Utah State's probably underseeded a bit as an 8 seed, I think Utah State's going to win this game.
Next, we got by far the best 5 versus 12 seed matchup. We got Gonzaga versus McNeese State. I love both these teams. It's a shame they had to play against each other. Both teams are very good. I think McNeese has the edge on defense, but Gonzaga has the edge on offense. McNeese a 30-win team, play really well, coached really well. I'm gonna go with McNeese.
Next up, we got ourselves Kansas versus Samford. We're both Kansas haters. A lot of them are getting hurt recently, but we just don't like Kansas to begin with. If you're filling out your bracket and have Kansas going far, that's fine. This is one of those picks where you honestly, if you're going to pick a 4 versus 13, this is a good one. Samford is a strong team, 29-5. They've got some stars. They honestly have some experience. A lot of them are juniors, seniors, which you see in those upset type of teams. You've got guys able to score 25. Archer Achor, I think his name is. His name is the same as first and his last name. I remember seeing he dropped like 25 in their conference finals. He's been on fire lately. And we think they're going to be able to upset this injury Kansas team.
Next, we got South Carolina versus Oregon. Once again, March is about riding the hot teams. Oregon just rallied to make the tournament, winning the Pac-12. South Carolina played Auburn in the first round of the SEC tournament, lost by over 30 points. I think they are not playing well enough to win this game. So give me the hot Oregon Ducks.
Great and spectacular. Moving on.
All right. All right. Colorado State just won. So it's Texas versus Colorado State. Watching that Colorado State versus Virginia game, all I saw was Virginia being horrible. So you can't put an eye test to that. Texas has a very similar team to last year while they had Marcus Carr. They lost Marcus Carr, but now they have Max A. Smith, known for making runs in the tournament. Texas made the final or the Elite Eight last year. They're going to run it back and win the first round.
Tennessee, St. Peter's. Sorry, St. Peter's. I don't see this run this time. I didn't see it last time, to be fair, but Tennessee, I'm just going to pick them. We already have our 15-2, and Tennessee is a very good team for it, too. Ziegler and my boy Dalton are both electric players, both outperforming this season. They're going to be very good in March.
All right, back up. Purdue versus Utah State. Utah State is a team that can get streaky, can get hot, can actually defend the ball pretty well. They have their forward, great Osabor, very good scorer, big guy, can score at all 3 levels. However, I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy. His name's Zach Edey. He's kind of okay, 7'4". I think he's too much to handle.
Next, we've got McNeese State versus Samford. McNeese State Gonzaga was a great game. It's nice that after having such a close game first round, you get such an easy matchup of Samford or Kansas. You're going to rock them either way, whoever wins. I don't care. McNeese is winning.
Next, we got Oregon versus Creighton, a very good 11 versus 3 matchup. I'm sorry to say, Oregon, your run is over. I think the players, Bruce Shireman and Caleb Brenner, is too much to handle. That defense is too good for you guys to continue to score at your level. I think Creighton.
Next, we got Texas, Tennessee. Tennessee's got that star power that Texas can't keep up with defensively. At least Max A. Smith is great, but defensively they can't keep up with Tennessee. They've got some big guys who are going to score.
Next, we got Purdue versus McNeese. McNeese, you had a very great run. However, you can't stop this Purdue team. This Purdue team is very scary because of their 3 point ability. The reason they lost last year is because they couldn't shoot, and now they're one of the best 3 point shooting teams in the country. Hard to stop Purdue.
Next, we got Creighton, Tennessee. I think Creighton has a great matchup here. Tennessee's a great scoring team. So is Creighton. Creighton's good defensively and offensively. They're a very balanced team. They've got tons of guys who can score inside and out. They've got their big guy, 7-footer, and Ryan Kalkbrenner, who's very good. And then you've got your guard play in Baylor Shireman, who's just been spectacular this season. 6'7", a little bit oversized. They've got the experience, bunch of seniors and juniors on that roster, which we continue to see play a pivotal role in March Madness. And Creighton is one of those teams that if you're in a bigger league, maybe choose them instead of who we pick. Well, kind of a spoiler alert, because there's more upside and less people will be choosing them.
All right, to complete the Elite Eight, we got Purdue versus Creighton. Creighton is a team that fouls teams the most, and Purdue is a very good free throw shooter. However, if they keep this game at a fast pace, they can score the ball really well. They can defend the ball really well. They match up really well with Purdue. That is a team that I can see stopping that guard play, that guard shooting, and stopping Zach Edey and Purdue. Let's go Creighton.
All right, moving on. We'll go top left first, the left side of the bracket. We got UConn versus New Mexico. The only times UConn have lost this season, there's two of their losses were when they shot less than 20%, making only 3 field goals from 3. And they will not do that again. They are a dominant team. They're going to keep scoring. I think this UConn team is better than they were last year by every metric. They're very dominant. We see them cruise through the Big East tournament. New Mexico is a great team for pulling upsets. I don't think they can against this UConn powerhouse. UConn does everything just exceptionally well. Offensively, they score miles ahead of everyone else, and defensively, they're not bad. They are incredible. They're a top 12 defense in the league right now.
All right, next we got Houston versus Creighton. It's a great matchup. Both teams that play defense really well. Houston showed that they are human. They lost by over 20 points to Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. They showed that they are not that elite scoring team. Creighton, great on defense, amazing on offense, can shoot the free throw and the 3 ball really well. I think they barely squeak out this win and outpower Houston.
So now we got a rematch. UConn Creighton, this is our final pick. If you haven't dropped a sub, please do so now. Always comment what you think of our picks, but we got UConn versus Creighton, 2 teams coming out of the Big East. We saw Creighton win by 19 earlier in the season. Creighton outperformed them. UConn, I watched the whole game. They were missing shots they never miss. They were missing threes. They shot like 18%. They made 3 3-pointers that game. And Newton played terrible. I think he dropped 27. Actually, no, sorry, Newton didn't play terrible. Newton played great. Castle and Clingan were very unlike their usual selves. I think UConn has actually grown since then. Creighton maybe has had some weaknesses, especially in that conference tournament. We saw that they weren't great. And UConn's just such a dynamic team that's going to make it really easy for them to win this game by 30 points and dominate March Madness. Once again, we're taking UConn. Thank you guys all for watching. If you haven't dropped a sub, drop a comment, tell us what you think. And anyways, have a good one.